Hi, a very good evening. I'm Ifra Mufti. Today we're taking a Prince Live question. It's about Indigo, which is the world's primary operator of the Airbus, basically the operator of the Airbus A320neos, which has been issued a show cause notice yesterday by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. So today our question is that why has there been a show cause notice, plus why the DGCA has issued directions to conduct a special safety audit of the operations and engineering issues of the Airbus A320neos. Now today, as we all know that since 2017, Pratt Whitney, which is like one of the big three aerospace manufacturers, along with their collaborators like General Electric and Rolls-Royce, so it has been facing a lot of problems since its inception in 2017 we talk about. So in the past 2 years, it has faced a lot of emergency landings, and there were filled cabins also. Then there were the safety and reliability was also under question, and another scanner, of course. So yesterday this came under the header again because the DGCA issued a show cause notice to this chief operating officer of the Indigo, and asked to conduct a special safety audit. So when DGCA was asked that why was the audit done, so they just simply said that it was a normal, basically downgraded the entire audit reason. They said that just because of the annually done progress, and it's a program basically done by, conducted by the aviation regulator. So among the Indian carriers, Indigo, to the best of our knowledge, it has ordered about 380 A320neos and 150 of its stretched derivative, and they were basically, as on date, is the largest operator of neos. So we have already started receiving questions. Basically, we are talking about the Pratt & Whitney engines. What have been the problems faced by the A320neos? Because that was the main reason why the Indigo, which has been considered to be the primary operator of the Airbus, was issued show cause notice. So our first question is that what are the problems with the Pratt & Whitney engines specifically? Okay, so we're going to go back in March 2016 when Indigo became the first operator in Asia to procure the A320neos planes. So by April that year, in the same year rather, they started facing a lot of problems. They received complaints, they began streaming in, and they basically in late 2016 also, Indigo started reporting issues of basically the number 3 bearing seal. So I'll repeat, it's number 3 bearing seal. You will find this problem a common one in the remaining and the forthcoming problems which the Indigo faced just because of the Pratt & Whitney engines. And again in February 2017, there was another flight which had to make an emergency landing in Delhi just because again they had faced certain technical glitches. So, and another point of view that there was US-based Spirit Airlines also included because they had to ground 2 of its 5 A320neos. 5 of the planes were grounded at that time just because again they were metal chips were founded in the oil supply, which was actually banned, but they were using it. And again, it was the blame went on to the Pratt & Whitney. Another question is that why the sales of Pratt & Whitney engines weren't stopped even after these incidents. Why couldn't the Airbus do away with these faulty engines? So very right question, because the Pratt & Whitney engines, the supply continued, their planes continued. All the Indigo airlines, another airline to use Pratt & Whitney is Go Air in India. So that's another carrier using Pratt & Whitney engines. So both of the Indian carriers continued using the Pratt & Whitney engines. Why? So basically Pratt & Whitney engine issued a statement after all of these incidents had happened. About 4 incidents happened in like 1 year time period that they had to, they were grounded. Some of the airlines faced cabin fillings and a lot of other problems regarding safety issues again. So after all of these incidents, Pratt & Whitney spokesperson, they issued a clear statement saying that we are rectifying all of our errors and we are working on it. And the figures that they gave was that it was then more than 95% of the fleet in India have completed the retrofit, which includes the new combustion. And they said, they specifically stated that number 3 seal configurations have been rectified. So again, that which was I repeat, that number 3 seal configuration, which was a common problem in almost all of the incidents which Indigo Airlines faced, that was, they said that it has been a new combustion and a number 3 seal has been added. They also basically software upgradation was done by the Pratt Whitney, which they said that we have done it. And then after all of these, after this incident, after the 4 incidents and the Pratt Whitney statement, the deliveries were resumed. I mean, their supply was stopped for a very short period of time. When the Indigo airline and the Go airline, they started an investigation that what was the problem, and there were common problems found. They stopped the supply for a very short period. But after all of the statement, they said that we have upgraded the software and we have added a new combustion. Then the deliveries were resumed after all of that. This was in 2019 that after Pratt & Whitney reported that engine troubles have fallen and basically by a factor of 4 in the last year. So last year, I mean to say it's 2018 we're talking about. So Airbus in fact says that the fleet performance also improved in the same year. Another question is that after the deliveries of Pratt & Whitney engines were restarted, how has it been responded? So I believe I consider this question as that how has it responded, that were there any other incident reported after that, or how did it go well? Was it fine or not? So as I remember is that there was another incident reported after all of the deliveries were resumed, and Pratt & Whitney said that we have done well and our basically performance has gone well. But then another incident was reported, and there was Go Air Patna Delhi flight which had to make an emergency landing, and just because there was an engine shutdown, and there was even loss of oil also that was reported. But then again, Pratt & Whitney, to this incident, they did not comment anything. They refused to, rather they declined to comment on all of these issues again. Another question is coming, is there anything related to Jet Airways? Is this related to? Okay, so basically all of the in midway of all of these issues been going on beside it. So we all know that Jet Airways has been shut yesterday 10:30 p.m. Yesterday was the last flight between Amritsar and Mumbai, and just because of the lack of fundings from the banks and other oil companies, they had no option but to cancel and suspend temporarily all of their domestic and international flights temporarily, and they will be waiting till 10th of May till the bidding starts again. And as a DGCA also today, after all of this happens, and they said that over 16,000 employees will be affected, and then the DGCA issued today that they are going to be asking the Jet Airways to give and submit a plan thing and reissue a plan which can make them understand that how to work on that again and how can we fly back again. So that is all an update, because there is another meeting going on basically between the airlines and the DGCA, that how can we basically avoid the high fares which can really go up during this time, because the other airlines, there was a time came in the past 2 weeks, Jet Airways were flying hardly like 5 to 10 airplanes, which is why, and the certain routes were all closed, and the other lines including Indigo, and there was another Vistara, then other Air India also, they were like of course taking advantage of all of these issues, and there were high fares of all the minimum routes also, even Delhi, Mumbai including that. So now on that front also, DGCA issued a statement yesterday that rather directions to all the other airlines, domestic airlines as well, which the Indian carriers which are also flying on the international routes, they were directed that they should limit to their bucket fare list. I mean, it depends on the lower airfare or the higher airfare that they depend on. Another question is, what is DGCA doing to make less inconvenient for people? Okay, so again, I come back to that issue that DGCA has today issued a statement in the morning itself that we are working on it, and we are working just because Ministry of Civil Aviation rather had a meeting with the DGCA earlier after Jet Airways declared and announced that we are suspending the operation. They said that we will definitely work for the convenience of the passengers, and we will look out for alternatives that what can be done and how can Jet Airways come back to its flight. So till 10th of May, there are no speculations that what will happen and what will not. But again, there will be alternatives adjusted by the DGCA. So that's, as they said, I mean clearly that we are working on that. What about people facing inconveniences? All right, so there are actually a lot of people taking to Twitter and social media that there have been problems facing. Of course, they had booked their flights of May and June, and now they're saying that we're not getting refunded. Rather, the platforms like Make My Trip and other platforms where they were booking the tickets, they are having problems, and they are complaining to Jet Airways, and they're tagging DGCA and Airport Authority of India and Ministry of Civil Aviation that what can they do to get their refund back. So it's basically refunding is an issue here, and Jet Airways says that we will be able to refund in some time, so that they're working on. So that was the last question, and for all the other updates, keep watching the ThePrint's update and Facebook channel and the YouTube channel.